If you tell someone that you took your vacations in the south of France Riviera, eyebrows would be raised, and they would think of the Côte d'Azur, the Film Festival of Cannes, the casinos of Monaco, the luxury hotels, film stars and celebrities, and millionaires' yachts, and they'd be right. We decided to see some of this for ourselves and took one of the luxury trains from Antibes station to Beaulieu Sur Mer, on the other side of Nice, about an hour's journey away along the coast past the airport. Looking along the coast, we could see the many fine hotels and villas for the glitterati, amongst the pines, with stretches of golden sandy beaches, all in an idyllic setting. We are viewing the small harbour of Beaulieu, studded with smaller motor vessels and yachts, owned by the local elite, with room for visitors, set in a sheltered cove, with the Alps in the background. Why the Greek music? Well, the first of two villas that we visited was Greek-inspired, set on a rocky projection into the sea in a most commanding location. This is Villa Kerylos. Even the name is Greek. Kerylos means halcyon, or in English, kingfisher, a poetic bird of Greek mythology, considered to be a bird with a good omen. Villa Kerylos was built between 1902 and 1908 by architect Emmanuel Pontremoli for Theodore Reinach, born in 1860 until 1928. He was patron archaeologist based on the model of the noble houses of the island of Delos in Greece in the 2nd century BC. Their encounter gave birth to a complete architectural work which takes visitors into a world where the quintessence of Greek civilization is integrated into the modernity of early 20th century, which glorified technicality. Together they not only created a Greek house, but also reproduced its furniture, tableware, fabrics and decoration. The house subtly combines the luxury of ancient Greece with the modern comfort of Belle Epoque leisure villas. Theodore Reinach spent his holidays there with his family, and on his death in 1928 he bequeathed the villa to the Institut de France, of which he was a member. His children and grandchildren continued to live in the house until 1966, when it became listed as an historic monument. Villa Kerylos is now an undisputed point of reference for knowledge of Greek culture and its dissemination. Myself, Helen and Mia spent time on the Greek mainland and on the island of Crete, visiting all the architectural sites, museums and folk museums. And we found in Villa Kerylos not the fragments of the past, pieces of broken pottery, but as it would have been when constructed. In Kerylos we stepped back in time and saw the true wonder of the classical Greek world. I have a fascination with the evolution of language and their alphabets. I enjoy looking at the inscriptions on monuments, stelae, and writings on slabs or cut into clay. I love looking at hieroglyphics of the Egyptians, the cuneiform scripts of Babylon, and Coptic scrolls. I marvel at the chisel serifs of Rome and how undulating markings and indents on stone can be disentangled into speech. We set off by foot along the coast to a projection of land which formed a bay with Villa Carolus on the other extreme, passing many fine buildings and villas on the way, many of very pleasing and varied architectural styles. We even found a taste of home, at least in name, Tirnanog, the land of youth. But peering over the wall and admiring the intricacies of the wrought iron gate with golden florals, the relationship ended there. We were on our way to Villa Rothschild. This villa is the antithesis of the one we had seen. The first was pure in its intent to capture the glories of the Greek classical past. The second villa was a gathering together of several architectural styles and diverse concepts, but it was in its famous garden that the varieties of differing designs and genre from all over the world came to the fore in an eclectic world of beauty. The Rothschilds were a Paris-based Jewish family of bankers with great business acumen and were involved with shipping, railways, copper mines in Spain and the De Beer diamonds from Africa and wine. They were wealthy beyond the dreams of many and financed royalty. They were given baron status by Emperor Francis I of Austria, and when Napoleon, in gratitude, made the Jewish faith acceptable in France, their accomplishments knew no bounds. The family had branches in England, Austria, Germany, Naples and elsewhere. They funded Cecil Rhodes in creating the African colony of Rhodesia and were bankers to King Leopold of Belgium. The family had over 40 palaces of unparalleled luxury, and they married into royalty. It was into this privileged family that Charlotte Beatrice de Rothschild was born in 1864. She had a great interest in the arts and in collecting objets d'art. She met her husband, Maurice Efroussi, from a Russian-born Jewish banking family who shared her passion for collecting. They were married in 1883 when she was only 19 and he was 34. They met Maurice's cousin Theodore Reinach, who had just completed his Villa Carolus, and she fell in love with the area and bought 17 acres on Cap Ferrat, where she built her own villa and filled it with her treasures. She loved travelling and recreated 7 different garden themes, filling them with budgerigars, monkeys, gazelles and pink flamingos, her favourite colour. She constantly wore pink and even painted her villa pink. All was not well in our marriage. Morris was forgiven for rendering her infertile through transmitting to her a disease. But when his gambling debts amounted to the equivalent of €13 million, she divorced him. He died in 1916, aged 52. Charlotte moved to her chateau in Monte Carlo, but spent a great deal of her time in her special villa amongst her treasures and flamingos, hosting flamboyant parties for the glitterati with an orchestra playing to the dancing of fountains. She died in 1934, aged 69. She was anxious to keep her collection intact and left the villa and its possessions to the Académie des Beaux-Arts, a division of the Institut de France, as a museum, and we went to view her legacy. From the elevated ground, we could overlook many other villas and mansions around, some contemporaneous to our villa, and others of more recent design and construction, all in themselves quite magnificent and each a gem in its own right. But Villa de Rothschild was a Venetian palace not to be excelled. The gardens were out of this world, with ornamental vases and stone temptresses peering out of floral vegetation of every hue and colour. Every corner had its own surprises, with differing fauna from several of the continents which he visited and brought home to our villa. She tried to create these worlds around her and relive the memories of happy days abroad. It was an adventure garden, drawing you ever forward to explore its beauties and its secrets. Comparison with Villa Carolus and Villa de Rothschild was not possible. The first was a purist temple to the Greek gods, and showing how the wealthy in the Greek classical world lived. It was stepping into the past. The Villa de Rothschild was a gathering of all that was beautiful from around the world, from China to Spain, and reflected the passion of a woman powerful and wealthy enough to acquire such treasures. It was vibrant and indulgent, and some secret corners in our garden would bring solitude and peace. It was like living in a dream.